Montana is a very diverse landscape. From the plains, the grasslands, to the mountains and the forested areas in western Montana. The one common thing that runs through that is the people that persist on this landscape. Whether they're ranchers, farmers, forest landowners, they have been here for generations. And much of the value that we see in resources, whether it's clean water, whether it's productive farm and ranch lands, habitat for wildlife, those things are all present to a much greater degree on private land than they are on public land.
Private land really is the key to working in the conservation arena. So if you're looking to make a difference and to what I like to call move the needle, your best bang for the buck is really to work on private land. Our job as NRCS employees is to present conservation alternatives to the customers that we work with for them to make the decision on where they want to go, what they want to do. Either way, NRCS is there to provide that kind of technical and financial assistance to them.
In the last 100 years, we've been losing large amounts of sagebrush steppe habitat, largely due to conifer expansion into the sagebrush, due to the exclusion of wildfire. As those trees outcompete the native shrubs and grasses, we lose forage for wildlife and for livestock. We also lose suitable habitat for species like sage grouse.
They just get thicker and thicker, and your trails keep getting narrower and narrower because they're getting bigger and bigger, and I'm losing any profit from the grass that I'm selling, because that's the business I'm in.
We are a cow-calf operation, basically. Raise hay. We run from sagebrush flats to the hills and the trees. There wasn't hardly any pine trees 80 years ago here, or if they were 4-footers.
This landscape most likely evolved as a ponderosa pine savanna, where there's an open canopy with a really nice herbaceous understory. Fire was suppressed on the landscape, and pretty soon we had an explosion of ponderosa pine across the landscape, and our herbaceous understory is really challenged. Being crowded out and shaded out, and now we no longer have the forage that we desire for our livestock.
There's 500-600 acres of pretty much unusable, quite honestly, and it was a fire danger. That's probably the thing that scared me the worst, was this fire danger. We were going to lose this place sooner or later if we didn't do something. It was too big a scope for me with the chainsaw to go try to do. I mean, that just wasn't going to happen.
The initial project started with a concerned landowner going into the NRCS office saying, I have an issue, I recognize I have an issue, but I have no idea where to start. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
We're really fortunate in the Blackfoot to have all these critters still on the land, but at the same time, having those adds some complexity to being a cattle rancher or just being someone recreating through the Blackfoot, fishing or riding a bike. And so the idea that we can neighbor up with Natural Resource Conservation Service and other partners to really think strategically valley-wide about where bears, wolves are moving, and working with those landowners, taking those problems away, that's really important.
Folks that live here certainly see the value of wilderness and wild things, but they also deal with the reality of a grizzly bear breaking into their animal feed, tearing the doors off their garage to get at things that the grizzly bear perceives as a great valuable food source. So it leads to those conflicts. And this project allows people to exist on the landscape, to live their lives here, to make their livelihoods, but it also allows the grizzly bear to be part of the landscape as the society at large has valued.
We need a lot of help. The NRCS paid I think up to $100 and some per acre. So we hire teams that come in with chainsaws and they do what they call lop and scatter. And then burning, to me, makes sense, and that way you're eliminating not only the lop and scattered trash that's on the ground, but you're eliminating the baby trees that are growing underneath that.
So we're fortunate to have the Southwest Montana Sagebrush Partnership. So that has allowed us to go from getting a couple of small projects done every year to implementing large-scale projects, which is resulting in more of a landscape scale approach.
Working with partners like the NRCS is critical to our success. I think what's exciting about the Southwest Montana Sagebrush Partnership and what we have going here, it's not just we're working on solutions at scale. We're not just working on projects at scale. Those projects are wins for everybody.
Ponderosa pine encroachment has definitely affected landowners, and they want to keep that native rangeland because it is expensive and it is their most productive land that they do have. We are trying to reverse that through mechanical treatment and maybe someday through fire management. The most recent prescription is using a 40 to 60 foot crown spacing between leaf trees. We do this so that if a fire does occur, it is mostly kept on the ground. And in doing so, we're also creating relationships between government agencies, county agencies, private landowners. We've been able to kind of pull our funds together and sometimes pull our personnel together and work on the same project with the same goal and be able to help those landowners get their AUMs built back up and also reduce their fire hazard for their livestock and their wildlife.
I think that's a common thread in our planning, whether we're doing a seeding or whether we're doing fuels mitigation. We want to be able to make the landscape more productive and more resilient, and over time that helps the producer with their bottom line on their ranch.
NRCS is always looking for ways to be innovative in supporting agriculture and supporting all of the other resources that are on the landscape, whether it's water quality, soil quality, wildlife habitat. Electric drive-over mats are probably the most innovative tool that's been come up with for dealing with grizzlies, because they receive an electric shock when they step on it, but a human being can walk across it and you can drive across it with a vehicle, and the same thing. There's no impact on humans, but it is a deterrent to the grizzlies.
The Natural Resource Conservation Service is really flexible about working with us personally, and then also working with a lot of other partners here in the Blackfoot. We've been able to remove almost 100% of our barbed wire and replacing it with permanent electric fence, wildlife-friendly fence. And it's made all the difference for us to be able to take that and move it. It works for cows, it works for wildlife. It's really a flexible product, but it's enabled us to be able to cost share a little bit with the Natural Resource Conservation Service and makes it something that we can afford to do here on the ranch.
Really, everybody that is involved in this has something to gain, and we're all gaining right now.
The funding and the expertise that they brought, helping with the contractors, everything. I mean, it's been I can't say enough about it, quite honestly. I feel I rest a lot easier now after we've done this thinning and these fire breaks.
If I can eliminate a lot of this encroachment, that gives me more grass. That becomes more sustainable. Down the road, my family will still be here, hopefully, doing what I'm doing and not turning it into a subdivision.
I mean, what makes this place special here in the High Divide in Southwest Montana? This is a working landscape. It truly is a working wilderness, and to keep it that way, we need to keep it viable. And with partners that work with private landowners like the NRCS, it makes that possible.